I discovered an interesting ad that came out during this past election, and I thought it was quite interesting, very intriguing. Not that it was 100% accurate, and I'll explain why, but also what was interesting is there were some pieces there that really stood out to me, and I'm going to explain. So, meanwhile, I want you to come with me on this journey and looking at the whole concept of where this came from. The ad is called A Warning from the Future, and I believe it was created by this group called vote.org, movement.vote, or seedthevote.org, or something like that. I could say, well, this was creative. They were trying to grab a specific audience, and immediately they start off with a dystopian reality. Like, here we are. This is what happened to us because we voted in the wrong way. It starts off with this girl that reminds me a whole lot of Chloe from Life is Strange. Now, we're familiar with Chloe because she was married to Peter the Insider. They have quite a few videos about her, and they're from this group called The Merge, which is the Monarch Umbrella Refugee Group. So they're called The Merge. And years back, Peter had rescued them. He and Lincoln Clay and some others, they had taken them from Monarch, and some of them were from the Umbrella Corporation. And they were in essentially a very dystopian experience, put in these underground dumps, very, very bad living experiences, caged, like the worst nightmare possible of what a person can go through. Meanwhile, as time went on, they were recognized for having these incredible abilities because Monarch had been experimenting on these children to see what they can do with them, and in the process, they had these abilities. The problem was that these, I'll say, Monarch children, who are now young adults, have a lot of problems, a lot of emotional issues, and are still in a mindset of dystopia. So when I saw the beginning of the video that depicts a girl with blue hair, immediately I thought of Chloe. Now, what does that mean? It means that Peter, for the past 7 years, has been talking about dystopian realities. He has also taken the Merge, particularly Chloe, Maxine, and some others, on many of these journeys to these dystopian realities. So I started looking at this in a different light. By seeing someone that looks like Chloe in the beginning, hints that she had a hand in the creation of it through some kind of impression or somehow gathering the information and sharing it and encouraging them to put it together. So let's go through some of the points that they talk about. First of all, she's showing herself as if she's partying, which is something they talk about all the time. That was very important to them because when they became liberated, it seems like, they got into things, they got into drugs, they got into substances, and they also got into experimenting their sexuality, trying to find out who they are and all that. And so you see sort of that party scene in the beginning, which is another indication. But then we start looking at some of the comments that they make. So they say, oh, well, we weren't interested in voting. We actually thought it was rigged. At the time, we just thought, we were around beautiful people, so they're choosing who they're around, and just thinking that, none of this voting really mattered. But then when they saw that this party was interested in arresting people that disagreed or are dissidents, that they said we messed up, right? So then they go on further and they talk about how, immediately you see that Trump is there with Elon Musk and Peter Thiel. And that's the other two that they mentioned, as well as J.D. Vance. So Elon Musk, we constantly see him with Donald Trump. That's true. And then we see that they also talk about how they want to take all of the illegal immigrants out. They also want to take legal immigrants out. They put them in these camps. And then they said the homeless. Now, Peter and I have talked about how the homeless were missing. I mean, we actually have articles where a large group of homeless people are missing, which has indicated, more of that experimentation issue from these corporations that no one is really talking about aside from the ACIO. A lot of that information is still under wraps, and not many people have really discovered that, which I believe is going to come out in the future. But right now, we're trying to keep people's heads up, but this is how it's really bad. I chose this picture background particularly because there's always like a, everything's all dilapidated usually in these movies or whatever, but they always seem to find a place where they can gather. And I thought that diner in the back made sense to me. So some of the other points, very important. So they say that Donald Trump ends up dying, and they're not the only ones that said that. I mean, The Simpsons have also show Donald Trump in a casket. And we also know, how many times there was assassination attempts against him. And they've been very blatant about it. You don't really see that anyone's, you don't see too many people having that many assassination attempts. It's crazy. But I'm not really sure if that's what they're hinting at, or they're hinting at a natural cause or something else that happens. Everyone dies at some point, so I don't know really if that's something to really focus on. The point is that they say that J.D. Vance takes over, and he takes over at the age of 39. Well, he is technically 40. So I thought, well, either they didn't do their research, which I have a hard time believing that they didn't know his correct age, or this is something else. Maybe this already happened somewhere else. This is what I'm leading into. Okay, so this is a conspiracy theory. This is a theory of mine that this has already played out somewhere else. And that's why they had all these detailed points. And if anyone would know about it, would be Chloe. She would have gone to one of these realities. So what she says, what they say in this, well, it's a female who narrates, is that J.D. Vance is not a good guy. He comes in, he becomes the president, he stays in office as a dictator for about 30 years. And then Elon Musk also is looking for immortality, and he's chasing that, and Peter Thiel. And then they kind of disappear. No one knows where they go. But all they know is that they are in this dystopian reality, living off the land. Like, in other words, well, we survive. We don't know what happened to them. Another thing, they talk about Elon Musk bringing in tremendous amounts of AI. And that was his end game, to be able to, I think he wanted to become immortal and create the reality that would support that. And that by enforcing and bringing in heavy AI, that they could control everything, and that would enable him to excel and figure out what the next steps were. But they say they don't know what happened to him in the end. They also complained about how they didn't like the way things happened with the war in Gaza, which we know what's going on. the attack on freedom of speech, which we also know, the social media, and even I think there was an article of NATO talking about having an interest in what is going on with social media. Another thing they say is that Florida, they didn't take the climate change issue serious enough, and that Florida sinks into the water, into the Gulf, and the West burns. The cities become uninsurable, and then later on uninhabitable, so no one can really live there either. So I didn't say that all in sequence as they talk about it, but I did want to say that, is it J.D. Vance or is it someone like him that's in this other reality? Does the world completely go in disarray? Do we become dystopian? I have heard, multiple people talking about, well, there's going to be the war over in the United States. A lot of different predictions. And these are things that are coming. How do they come in? And they just create these ideas, or they create them in another reality, and then they sort of integrate that into our reality in some way, or it bleeds through and we start to experience it. CERN maybe could be part of it. There's a lot of ways that something like this can happen in these, what we call them, bleed through realities. Should we be afraid? Should we be concerned? I just believe that the way they talked about this was less like a story and more like an experience. I don't think it will play out the way that they said. But there are pieces that are happening now that really didn't come into fruition until the election happened. And now you see Elon Musk everywhere where Donald Trump is. We know that they want to accelerate AI. We know about the Neuralink. We know about all the satellites that they're using to survey us right now. So what to do? I'm going to say what I usually say: highest intention for humanity. That's what I'm going to say. I don't ignore anything, even if I disagree with it or I don't like it. Try to think about it and think about where it's coming from and what the agenda is that's involved. As much as these realities seem interesting to step into, just for a few moments, for maybe 15 minutes, knowing that I can leave and come back home, and that you can turn the channel and be in your comfortable place in your home or somewhere that you like to go to where the cities don't look bad. But imagine this being permanent. That wouldn't be a good thing. So, as I said, highest intention for humanity. We don't need this to be our future reality. We don't need it to bleed through into our timeline. And unfortunately, the people that are influencing our reality are not in the right state of mind. I know that for sure. But you're in the right state of mind. That's why I'm talking to you. And let's change and remanifest what we know we deserve. We don't deserve this. We don't need a massive war to happen in the United States. I know that's what they want us to experience. They feel that we should have it on our land. I'm sorry that we had corrupt politicians and those that were meddling in other nations. But none of us had any voice in that. And I hope the world understands it. I don't want to see the war going on in Gaza in the Middle East. I don't want to see the war going on in the Ukraine. I don't want to see any wars going on in the Sudan or any of these other places. We don't need to be in that situation anymore. I think we've learned enough. It's not about a political party. It's about us changing the reality into the correct timeline as we deserve. I think we've awakened, and many more are awakening, and let's continue going in that direction. Thanks for listening.